Hi and welcome to the channel. Today I want to talk to you about a patch inspired by Trent Reznor, the frontman of the band 9 Inch Nails, that is containing this book that I have already mentioned many times in this channel. And this version that I'm showing you now, it's my take on that patch with a lot of tweaks and sweet spots. But if you know 9 Inch Nails and Reznor, you know that he is one of the precursors of the industrial electronic music, and this is the flavor of this patch. So without further ado, let's dig into it. This patch is a duo between the Moog grandmother and the DFAM system, which is a synthesizer specialized in percussive sounds, or Moog's take on a drum machine, which is very experimental. Right now I'm running a slight different setup from what we had in the introduction demo, and it's sounding a little bit like that. As you can hear, that's a very aggressive sound with a metallic timbre, characteristic of the industrial genera. In order to showcase a little bit better the sounds of this patch, I will also run a little sequence here that I programmed in advance that will be triggered by the Moog grandmother. So one of the main characteristics of this sound are those randomized metallic sounds that overlays a kind of a percussive sound, percussive bass sound that is running in the background. To put it in perspective a little bit, let's isolate what the two systems are doing in this sound. So I will filter out the DFAM now and try to leave you mostly with what the grandmother would sound like in this patch. So you can hear that the grandmother has his spring reverb resonating a lot, but it's a very low bass sound echoing in the background with a slightly higher pitch from the second oscillator here. But if I now bring in the DFAM to the picture, you will understand what the DFAM is doing in the overall sound. Let's remove the filter from the DFAM. And maybe clear out the noise. So now you can see what both systems are doing in the composition of this sound. So on the DFAM side, you have all this metallic, springy sound going on, whereas on the Moog grandmother, we have this continuous percussive sound. And you will also notice that there is some randomizer. There are some random elements that directs the metallic sounds coming from the DFAM. Of my own taste, I added noise that acts really like a saturation and distortion in all the metallic string sounds. And this patch has a few important lessons that is easy to replicate in other sounds, much like some of the patches we saw in this channel before, like Lisa Belladonna lessons from Moog. So without further ado, let's deep dive on how these sounds are made. We can start our analysis here on the keyboard module, where we see a recurrent tweak from a lot of sound designers, which is to send the gate signal from the keyboard directly into the sink of your modulation module. And what this creates is a very responsive answer from your modulation towards what you were playing on the keyboard. You can see here that I have a stackable cable also sending the gate out from the grandmother all the way into the DFAM trigger up there, and this is what is syncing both synthesizers and the sequence. So the master system here is the grandmother, and when I play the notes by pressing and holding a key, this will trigger also the sequence on the DFAM. And that's how it's done, by sending the gate signal directly into the trigger input of the DFAM. Another step here that is nothing unusual is to send the keyboard pitch voltage into the utility section, because he split up the pitch signal into two, since up here on the DFAM we have two VCOs. This way the pitch voltage from the grandmother can control the frequency of both VCO 1 and 2 on the DFAM. Nothing special there, but the magic really happens around all the frequency modulation that he's doing in this patch. And that's where we are getting all these metallic sounds. So let's look how is this done. The first step here has been to connect the sample and hold out to give us a random voltage that is going into the attenuator to actually increase the value of the voltage. And this voltage is going up here on the green cable all the way into the DFAM oscillators 1 and 2 FM modulation amount, which is this knob here on the interface that is being now controlled by the sample and hold voltage from the grandmother. And this is what is giving that metallic texture for the sequence that's being played on the DFAM. But not only these, if we look now up here, he's sending the VC8 waveform all the way back to the grandmother directly into the linear frequency modulation of oscillator 2, which will also give this high pitch oscillator in the whole patch a very metallic sound. Let me try to show you how does this sound by filtering again the DFAM sound. And now going back here to the grandmother, if I open it up the filter, you can hear the metallic sound of oscillator 2. Let me push the DFAM back now. So, despite of all the cables coming back and forth, what gives this patch its flavor, it's in essence all this linear frequency modulation going on both between the grandmother here via sample and hold randomization voltage, but also taking the signal back from the VCA on the DFAM into the linear frequency modulation for oscillator 2 on the grandmother. And this random sounds is what gives these spikes that are oscillating in velocity or the intensity of the metallic sound. On my own accord, I have also activated the sequencer on the DFAM to also alter the pitch and the velocity of what the two oscillators on the DFAM are doing to give this sound even more dynamics. As well as adding a lot of noise here, which adds distortion to the metallic frequency modulation. sounding pretty much like a distorted guitar. So it's interesting how an artist can take his spice, his flavor into the modular system with like simple tricks up his sleeve, making really those two systems to sound like 9 Inch Nails textures. However, when you have a patch that has already some pitch tonality to it, and I didn't help much while activating the sequencer on the DFAM there, you end up stuck on a specific chord progression or melody that will work for that harmony. Not to say, of course, that this is an analog system, so once I switch these synthesizers off, I will most likely never achieve the exact same texture and sound. So that's why when you get into the sound you like on systems like that, the best thing to do is to run into your computer and record everything. What I also experimented a little was to have the hard sync on and off on this patch, because if I sync the two VCOs together on the DFAM, they actually follow the harmony that I'm playing in the grandmother much closer. Then if I let them loose, you will see that the timbre changes. And the melody changes quite a lot between the two oscillators in the DFAM, which is also an interesting sound. But this type of patch will kind of guide the melody that you can or cannot create. So in a way they can be very specific for a sound, but for sure it carries the spirit and the aesthetics of 9 Inch Nails in it. Besides, it's really fun to really connect the two modular systems together. I hope you liked. This was a short video after a long rainy summer break. My original intention was to make an outdoor recording to show you this patch, but the weather was not on my side. But now I'm back, so thank you for watching. Thanks for all the subscriptions, and I see you on the next one.